I'm Calvin Morris, and I'm here today to talk to you about Doctor Who Eaters of Light. I haven't got a lot of notes on this episode, which is sometimes a bad thing, but in this case I think it's quite a good thing because I was really into the episode, I was really enjoying it. I have made some notes though, and the first thing I'm going to talk about really is the visual effects. I don't think the Mill get enough praise for what they do. The reason being is that at the start of this episode I was kind of taken out of it. It was supposed to be set in Scotland, and of course it wasn't. But it was filmed in a location that I'm really kind of familiar with. So it was one of those things, because Doctor Who films around where I live, on a regular basis. And they do a really good job of not letting things get out. They do a very good job of keeping it stum. But the reason why I think the Mill needs a big up is because sometimes they take the raw plate of what they've got and they change it just enough so that it's somewhere else, so that the location has been modified to be this other place, and it's very, very good what they do, because in the opening few shots and that, it was kind of like I can see changes and I can see what they've done, but I think if you didn't know where those shots were filmed, you'd be kind of like none the wiser, and you wouldn't even know anything that was done to the frame at all. So I think they need a big plus for this, because they do it all the time to every single episode. You just don't think about it. This episode kind of rocked me a little bit because I knew where it was filmed and I knew that, but they do it to all the episodes. It's not just the one episode. They change little things here or there to make these stories work. So yeah, they need a bigger shake of the hand than what they get. So this episode was about the lost 9th Roman Legion. I like that. I do like that because if you know history, you know that it's an actual thing. That the army kind of disappeared round about 160 AD. And there's a bit of debate as to what happened. They were either defeated by the Scots, or they were reallocated, I think, to at the time it would be Persia. So it's really unclear as to what happened to the army, which is perfect for Doctor Who. That's where Doctor Who can step in and kind of go, well, we don't know what happened, but here's our spin on it. There were a couple of other things mentioned in the episode. One of the things, though, I think needs to be corrected, and it's the story that Nardo is telling the Celts about the Mary Celeste. And the reason why I think that needs to be corrected is because in the episode, William Hartnell episode, The Chase, we see what happens on board the Mary Celeste, and it's not what Nardo is saying. So he's got his facts wrong there, and he needs to be corrected. So I like the setting. I liked the setup for the story. I liked the creatures as well. I thought it was an interesting sort of creature. I was expecting something, because they were interdimensional creatures though. I was expecting something a little less solid. I wasn't expecting this sort of dragony type creature. I was expecting something a little bit more. Maybe something a bit more gaseous, So yeah, that was a little bit sort of like I would have preferred something else, and also I don't think I would have done those ray effects with it with the they had these sort of like I guess magnifying glasses. My problem with that effect was the fact that it wasn't that it was beaming the light out. It was the fact that when they moved it around, the light coming in changed its angle as well. So it was like, that's not how physics works, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, it was a decent episode, good run. quite enjoyable. I liked some of the back and forth. I liked the fact that Bill was piecing together the explanations for how the TARDIS works, how it's linked to the Doctor, how the telepathic field works. I like that she's coming along in leaps and bounds with those sort of things. She's making her own. She is literally the student. That's who this companion is. She's the student. He's the teacher, she's the student. It's very much sort of like the Seventh Doctor and Ace, but this does feel more like a university professor and a college student. So, yeah, like that. I didn't think Nardo added a lot to this episode, at least not for the most part of the episode. To the end, he comes back into it again. But I'm going to get around to talking about that, because obviously there's a lot going on in that. That's part of the continuing story arc. The way they defeated the Beast, I felt was a little too simplistic. It was like, we've laid a trap and it worked. I wouldn't have gone that way. There was a lot of time spent building up these characters, you know, whether it was the Romans or the Celts, and that's good. It kind of felt like this needed another episode. I think this episode should have been a two-parter, because they were just cramming it in. I still enjoyed it though. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but I think that the plan should have failed a little bit. You know, there should have been a failure to the plan, because it's not like they learned from any mistakes or anything like that, or even came to the realization. They kind of just accepted that what the Doctor was saying was true, and it never sort of backfired at any point for them. So yeah, I mean, overall I thought it was a really, really good episode, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Again, I like the fact that they played with history a little bit. That was kind of nice. I thought the costumes looked good as well. I thought the Roman Legion costumes looked good. The Celts as well. I loved the Celt face paint as well. I like the fact that Nardo was getting involved and getting himself made up. And then we sort of get to the end of the episode where they get back to the TARDIS. Now, again, it's dealing with the ongoing story arc. Sometimes this is why I don't like story arcs, is because it took time away from what you could have spent on the episode to tell this sort of couple of minutes of continuing story. So sometimes I don't like story arcs for that reason, because sometimes they top and tail episodes, and really the story in the middle it has to be condensed because you have so much to fit in. So Missy is locked in the TARDIS now. I don't think that's a good idea. At no point for the Doctor to be one so bright, man is he thick. You know, I do like the understanding that the Doctor and the Master are friends, because I've always understood that the Doctor and Master are friends ever since their days in the academy. You know, from childhood they've been friends, and I preferred the explanation that we had before, that it was a much more complicated thing, that they could be friends and still try to kill each other. I don't like what I'm seeing here with regards to me. I'm sure she's putting it on, and that it's all for a bigger purpose. I would be disappointed if it wasn't, but I still prefer the idea that the Doctor and Missy can be at each other's throats and still be friends. They're supposed to be higher up beings, and therefore deal with things on a much different level. And given that the Gallifreyan saying, like what the Doctor said before, is that death is the equivalent of man flu on Gallifrey, so the Master wants to kill the Doctor. Well, that's really sort of, I suppose that's them just playing a game and playing a bigger game. So I like that idea as opposed to really what's transpiring. I just hope it is building for a bigger purpose. I like Nardo in this end scene because he is really not happy with what he's seeing. He's really not happy with what's going on with Missy, and he thinks that the Doctor is, well, I think he's actually reflecting a lot of our opinions. That, you know, when he sees Missy in the TARDIS, it's like, what are you doing? You know, has your brain short circuited? You put it in the vault. So I think he's kind of being the viewer there. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how this transpires, how this plays out. But as for the episode of Eaters of Light, I thought the creatures could have been a little more interesting, but it was still an interesting concept, an interesting idea. These interdimensional beings that we've never seen before, that consume light. The danger was that they were going to expand through the universe and eat all the light in the universe. I kind of like the weird effect that it had on people, where you see the sort of melted kind of look. Yeah, I thought it done quite good. You felt at the end when they sort of went through together, this was about sort of putting your differences aside, and the only way to win is to put your differences aside and get on with it. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit rushed, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a good episode. I'd give it a 7. You know, it's not the best episode of Doctor Who, but I still... It's not the worst one they've done this season. And for me, the worst one they've done this season was the third part of that monk story. But even then, that was still good. That was still good. So they've done it again. They've done another good episode of Doctor Who, fun and enjoyable. Yeah, and I'm gonna leave it there. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this episode of Doctor Who, and more again next week. See you later, guys.